Hello again. Welcome back to this edition of World Talks. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Good morning. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will travel to Poland on Friday to meet with his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk. The leaders will discuss a new defence and security agreement between the two countries. London will be ready to consider, quote, sending British forces to help Ukraine guarantee the peace when the war eventually comes to a halt, said British Prime Minister in Kyiv yesterday. On the other side of the conflict, a strategic partnership between Iran and Russia will be signed in Moscow today. To understand the dynamics of these alliances, we're joined now by Manas Chawla, CEO from London Politica. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Great to be here.
So the new UK-Poland treaty aims to strengthen cooperation between the nations when it comes to protecting Europe from Russian aggression and tackling people smuggling gangs. According to Starmer, the time has come to, quote, take the Polish-British partnership to a next level. He also said that the closer collaboration with allies such as Poland will protect the UK's national security. So how would you comment these statements and the visit itself?
Well, in politics, quite like comedy, timing is everything. And the flurry of diplomacy that we see happening in the first couple of weeks of January, the fact that it precedes Donald Trump's inauguration to the White House on January 20th, is certainly not a coincidence. I think the UK is anxious about its position in the world, about its relationship with key allies, and it's looking to strengthen those partnerships, and thus the visits to Ukraine, the visit today to Poland. But this also comes on the back of, the UK worked on a closer bilateral treaty with Germany. Starmer was also recently in Estonia, kicking off the meeting of the British-led Joint Expeditionary Force. As for the sort of specifics of the defense treaty that might be signed with Poland, I mean, obviously the key objective here will be fending off Russia's aggression. I think, some of the key focuses will be on coordinating efforts to tackle disinformation and hybrid threats, which is something that the UK and the Polish side's been doing for quite a few years now. They've also already been working together on a frigate program, which aims to deliver new naval vessels for Poland's military in the 2030s. I think progress will be made towards that long-term goal in this meeting. A key question so far has been whether or not Ukraine can convince its Western allies to deploy peacekeeping forces in the event that there is, in fact, a sustainable ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. And that's something also that we might see progress on, given Starmer's talks in Poland.
Exactly. Volodymyr Zelensky said that he had previously talked to Poland, France and UK in that matter. But Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk consistently declined any possibility of Poland participating in those peacekeeping troops on the territory of Ukraine. So do you think Starmer is able to convince Poland, however, to change its stance?
Well, I mean, if there was someone that was going to convince Poland of this, I'm not sure that the UK would be the right partner. And secondly, I'm not sure that the UK itself is in the strongest position to be advocating for that, given that there's been criticism of Starmer domestically in the UK, that his support for Ukraine recently has become a little bit half-hearted, and that sort of European allies need to come together a lot stronger in order to prepare for what might be an American decision to quite impulsively push for peace between Russia and Ukraine. Remember, this is an administration where the president's promised peace on day one, where his envoy to Ukraine is now outlining a plan that makes that happen in 100 days. I mean, either way, I'm not sure that these sort of European leaders have a concrete plan B of how they would anticipate and mitigate the threat to European security that might be caused by the United States pushing Ukraine to freeze sort of its borders with Russia along existing lines, effectively giving up 20% of its territory. and for forever sort of preventing it from joining NATO.
As you said, timing is everything. On the very same day, Iran and Russia will agree to a strategic partnership deal today. So the cooperation agreement is to be signed in Moscow by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. So what do we know about this agreement?
Well, we know so far that Russia's made extensive use of Iranian drones during the war in Ukraine. And we also know that the United States and its Western allies have accused Tehran in September of delivering close range ballistic missiles to Russia for its use against Ukraine. Tehran so far denied supplying those drones or missiles, but third party fact checking has made that quite evident. Russia really relies on Iran's sort of technology and defense cooperation to sustain its operations against Ukraine. On the Iranian side, I think this is coming also at a crucial time because of three factors. First, Iran's regional and international position has been weakened in recent months. Its support for proxy groups, like, for instance, Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has continued to face punishing offensives from Israel, as has Hamas in Gaza, in addition to the rapid and unprecedented, unforeseeable almost collapse of the Assad government in Syria, means that Iran has fewer allies on the world stage. Secondly, its economy is also in tatters after the sanctions that were imposed during the nuclear deal that was agreed in 2015, and Iran is, actively looking for ways to shore up economic support, and selling defense tech to Russia might be one way of doing that. And then finally, third, the same factor again. Donald Trump, coming into office in just about 3 days' time, has promised a maximum pressure campaign on Iran, which looks to make its regional position, its economic position, even worse. And so, at a time, from the Iranian perspective, reaching out to Russia right now is a sort of a crucial move to shore up its alliances. I think one of the key things that Iran will also be hoping for, and that Russia might agree to, is cooperation on long-range air defense systems and other weapons. Iran wants these from Russia. It's hoped to get Russia's advanced Su-35 fighter jets to upgrade its aging fleet that's been hobbled by sanctions, but so far remains not nearly modern enough for active conflict in the region. So those, I think, are some of the things that we can expect from the sort of closer cooperation that we see between Russia and Iran.
All right. So the 20-year comprehensive pact is supposed to cover cooperation in different fields, from security and defense to others, but it looks military. However, Iranians say it's not intended to create a military alliance. But will we see Iranian soldiers on Ukrainian soil, just like we have seen the Korean ones?
I think it's a great question, and I think the very fact that that question is being asked is a sign of the times. I mean, really, this wouldn't have been a question had we not seen the North Korean soldiers deployed on Russian soil. I think in this particular case, I think the odds are likely quite low. Part of the reason is that Iran is far from Russia. Second reason is that Iran has, sort of not the best trained military, and certainly not one that complements Russia in the kinds of warfare that it's trying to wage right now. I think a lot of Russia's resources are going to be geared towards securing its positions. And that said, while Russia has some manpower problems, they're still replacing their men on the ground at a pace that's faster than Ukraine, and that's accounted for the fact that Ukraine's recently been losing significant amounts of land in the eastern Donetsk region. So I think it's unlikely that we'll see Iranian boots on the ground in Russia's war against Ukraine. I think it's much more likely that that is preceded by extensive defense cooperation. Perhaps it becomes more publicly known that Iran supplies Russia with short-range missiles, greater cooperation on drones. One of these drones, of course, was hovering in Kyiv when Keir Starmer visited Kyiv. This really is a crucial partnership to Russia, but the element of technology transfer and trade between arms and weapons, I think, matters a lot more to Russia than getting Iranian men to actually fight the war on its behalf on the ground.
You mentioned the development and the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. The result of it was losing by Iran its ally, but Assad was a common ally, right, by Russia and Iran. So my question is how the recent events in Syria would impact the relations between Tehran and Moscow. According to Middle East eye sources, Russia refused entry to an Iranian plane carrying weapons to Syria, also denied an Iranian request for weapons to secure a front line against the rebels. So it looks like the mutual trust has been somehow weakened.
I mean, just within the first hours of the resistance to Assad, which just in a matter of days ended up toppling the entire administration, it became quite clear that Russia wasn't coming to step in, move major resources, leverage its naval or airbase in the region to support the Assad regime. And then when Assad fled to Moscow, we saw and we heard sort of reports that Putin effectively snubbed Assad, didn't take a meeting with him for days, and wasn't willing to guarantee any kind of attempt to sort of regain influence in the region. And I think all of Russia's allies around the world woke up to that moment as a moment of concern. If Russia isn't taking care of its allies in the Middle East and walks back on support, I think Iran is clearly concerned about how their bilateral relationship will progress. And I think the denial of certain Iranian assets into Russia that you pointed out is sort of clear evidence of that. The sort of the weakening of both of these countries' regional postures has allowed them fewer resources to cooperate with each other, and also more narrow interests on their narrower self goals, their survival, their political survival, and kind of fending off security threats that they perceive within their immediate neighborhoods, giving them less time to actually cooperate on issues beyond that.
Interesting week and interesting developments. Thank you so much. Manas Chawla, CEO of London Politica, was our guest this morning. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And that's a wrap for this edition of World Talk. But please stay tuned to TVP World. We're coming just after with news.